Captains of Industry, brought to you by Airtel.
Welcome back. You're watching Captains of Industry. Now, our captain tonight has been described as an ordinary man who likes to do extraordinary things. One of the quirky habits he has is apparently putting honey in his coffee, not his tea. He's also done exceptional things, for instance, in taking an investment of 3 million rands and turned it into 3 billion rands and more in assets as the Mineworkers Investment Corporation sought to disburse money into a Mineworkers Investment Trust designed to help mine workers and their families deal with issues of the legacy of the industry and the social inequalities of this country. Paul Nkuna is our captain of industry tonight. He's the head of the Mineworkers Investment Corporation. So you've spoken to us about your journey from politics and trade unionism and then into business. And right now, as we head into a very exciting year in the elective conference of the ruling party, we're seeing some very dirty turf wars come to the fore. I want to know how you've kept your nose clean, how you've just continued on your journey unafflicted, uncomplicated, never really causing a fracas.
At the beginning, especially 1997, when I had to actually abandon politics completely, I found it very difficult. But then I had a challenge, and the challenge was, if I was to succeed in business, then I had to focus. And so I actually completely cut ties. I told myself the people that are left behind are capable people. They will actually be able to carry on without me, whether it be in the union, in the local government, and in politics, in the political organization itself. So, and since I actually really focused on, not that I don't have an opinion, I do have an opinion on some of the issues, on some of the things, but I don't have to go on a public platform. A public platform only relates to where it concerns the Mineworkers Investment Company, the MIC. And I think I've been lucky enough because I think the MIC have been taking almost all of my time, and there isn't any time to actually really be going to political rallies or political meetings.
I'm glad you've just mentioned this, because one of the issues that's been raised on a public platform, and we're on one now, is this question of mine ownership, changing the quotas for equity. We've heard also issues around nationalization, and with Julius Malema saying he's quitting politics, we might see a revision of a very excitable rhetoric around it, for lack of a better word. But you're in the industry, you certainly represent a constituency in that industry. And your Mineworkers investment vehicle is one way through which mine workers can seek redress. But again, what would be fair? Because as we know, the mining industry is the hallmark of this economy. What would be fair in terms of truly revolutionizing and transforming the industry?
I think the other question that we should be asking ourselves is nationalization going to be the answer of the outcome that we want? And I haven't seen, or no one has demonstrated to me, that nationalizing the mines would actually really address the problems that are faced by mine workers. I've seen some developments taking place. For example, this morning I was listening to the radio, not the news feed.
The radio station you own?
Yeah, the 702, and they were talking about Kumba making a dividend of more than 500,000 to their workers, each worker. And to me, that is empowerment. That is true empowerment. And I know for a fact, I sit on one of the mines boards, and that is Optimum. I know they have a trust, an employee trust, where employees own a certain percentage of the company. there are dividends that are actually really being declared every now and then, and employees benefit from those dividends. I'm not saying that is 100% the answer, but I think there's something already taking place which seems to be good. And I haven't seen a situation where mines were nationalized and where you would say employees benefited. Maybe somebody would come and convince me otherwise. I think a lot needs to be done in the mines. The black mine workers are still among the lowest paid in our country. I would say the mine workers, domestic workers, and farm workers.
Right.
Those are the lowest paid workers in our country. Something needs to be done, but I'm not convinced that nationalization is the answer.
What's the role you're playing in addressing some of those issues? I keep on referring to an investment company that represents mine workers, that has generated an income through strategic assets in the economy, and then there's disbursement through this trust.
I think we have empowered our constituency. And how have we empowered our constituency? We have actually created a platform where they have access to education. And education, to me, is something that no one would take away from you. If I were to actually dish out shares to our constituency, today they could be getting a dividend of 25,000. But 1 year down the line, if you say, where's the 25,000 I gave you? Would it be there? Yeah. The answer is no. But today we have produced more than 800 graduates. Their degrees, those who are still alive, they still have them and they can make use of them. Our philosophy has been the one which says, teach the child to fish, don't give him the fish. Yeah. And I think we're making a hell of a difference. And it's not only to the mine worker. Among the graduates that we have produced, more than 15, I think now it's more than 20 of them, are doctors. And who's benefiting is the community, the country, and the economy, our economy.
You've said that Cyril Ramaphosa is one of the most intelligent people you've ever met. He's not somebody you want to imitate, but he's somebody whose values and ideals you respect. Why is that?
I think there's so many things. When we were, during our days in the union, I'll tell you, each and every member of our executive will tell you that the decisions that we took were taken by us as members of the executive. In most of our structures, like your central committees, Cyril could have had a view on how he would want to see things being done. But what he used to do was to actually open it up and for us as members to actually really debate those issues until we arrive at a decision. Most intelligent people would want to actually impose. There's never been a moment where we thought Cyril took that decision. And that it takes a very intelligent man to do that. And if you remember when we were post the elections in 1994, when the constitution of this country was to be written, he was actually heading it. And there's a feeling among people that we drafted that constitution. It's the inclusive way in which he actually really make people to own a process.
So taking a leaf out of that book, is that how you lead?
That's how I lead. If you go to the MIC and ask about all our philosophies within the MIC, they will tell, especially my executives, they own it. Any strategic document that we have, they own it because there's engagement. And if you don't engage, actually, it's actually very good for a leader to do that because you learn a lot from your colleagues. I always refer to them as my colleagues. I always say there's two domains in an organization. There's a domain that deals with why, and there's a domain that deals with how. And you have to bring the two together. As a leader, you deal with the why, And you could have all the answers around the why, but you may not be the right person to deal with the how domain.
Right.
And therefore, you need to combine the two. I always say an organization is no different from a soccer team.
Yeah.
And I would make a silly example. I'll say Morocco Solos, for example.
That is a very silly example.
No, I'll tell you, that's a nice silly example. If you look at Morocco Solos last year, they were almost on the verge of being relegated.
Yeah.
It's not because they didn't have good players. They had very good players. They didn't have a leader.
Yeah.
They didn't have the coach.
Yeah.
Now, I'll make you another example. Arsenal, if you follow soccer.
Yeah.
Arsenal have a very good coach, but he will never win the league unless he is in a position where he can hold on to his players.
Right.
So the two always have to be a team.
Mm-hmm.
The why and the how should
Have to work
always
together.
come together. There should always be a meeting place.
We're almost at the end of the interview, and I want to know, in an illustrious career in business and politics, your most humbling moment.
My most humbling moment. I guess maybe there were too many when I actually really felt humbled. I think there's a time when, as the MIC, we always thought that the best place to be invested in is to be invested in listed entities. Mm-hmm. And the bulk of our investments were in listed entities. And come 1998, we saw almost 60% of our value being wiped out. Yeah. And that was a very humbling moment, and it was also a wake-up call. It also presented us with lessons going forward.
Okay. The best moments.
My best moments. I'll tell you, the best moment is when we declared our first dividend to the trust. Most people think that the 280 million that we declared to the trust was the highlights. When we declared our first dividend, it was 70 million rands. Declaring it to the trust, and for the trust to actually be able to use it for the next 5 years. That was the best moment, because I knew what it does. It brings an element of certainty. It meant that the trust and its social programs, the social arms, would be able to plan ahead without being worried as to where would the funding come from.
Thanks so much for your time, Paul
Pleasure.
Nkuna, who's head of the Mineworkers Investment Corporation, our captain of industry tonight. Thanks so much for watching.